Hello everyone. On this video, I'll be talking about long distance ride equals more pay. Um, when I was doing ride share, I always liked the long distance rides, unless it was rush hour time. But even then, I took them because it was all about serving the people. And since I knew that there were times where it would be rush hour, I usually had a solution. And if my solution didn't work, me and my client in the back would just have to have patience. But yeah, these long distance rides, they always equal more pay. It really doesn't matter what time of day it is. However, if it's in the morning or like late at night or in the middle of rush hour, it'll be like more pay, more than what it would normally be. For example, let's say you drove 45 minutes, depending on the time of day. 45 minutes, that will usually be like a 45 to $50 earning, and that's not even including tip. And those rides were usually good. You know, um, like I said, I always had a variety of clients in the back seat. Some of them would want to not say anything. They would want to ride in silence. Others would tell me about their day. It was if I was listening to a family member talk. Um, Again, and when they did that, it just let me know, like, wow, they were really having a tough day. Even if there were times they were venting to me about their day and I didn't really think that was still something to them, what I mean? Because, I wasn't in his or her shoes, depending on who was in the back of my vehicle at the time. But those long rides equals to a lot of payout. And when I say payout, I don't just mean money. I remember one time I had someone in the back of my vehicle that had mental problems. Wasn't anything that he could control. And I think at this time I took him downtown Dallas, if memory serves me correct. He only had one outburst. But even then, through that whole commute, I was driving the speed I would normally drive, drive fast when I can, slow it down when need be. Um, it wasn't even about the money. At that time, I was just thinking, like, I need to get him to where he needs to be because um, I just think familiarity was always a good thing for people in general, but especially people that have like mental illness of some sort. Um, I had picked him up from a behavioral hospital, and I kind of knew something was unfortunate about him and his situation when the individual was at the facility. They just held the door open and allowed him to come out. And they didn't even assist him. A part of me wanted to hop out in the system. However, I didn't because he was moving slow, like he had Parkinson's. So I was like, okay, just be patient. However, I did get out of my vehicle and I opened the back door and just waited. And I advised him. I was like, hey, take your time, because I understood his situation, and I also understood that from just looking at the fellow, he had lived a longer life than me. And of course, I don't know what the future holds. I know people. We all know of people that we may know personally. I don't even know at all. We just never know what life has for him or her in store. So, I wasn't cracking no jokes. I wasn't being inconsiderate. I was just, being patient. So he eventually makes it to the vehicle, and I head to where he needs to be. It was about one outburst, you know, and it was nothing major because I knew it was something he really couldn't control. Though he was loud, as I'm driving, I was like, hopefully, he doesn't have an outburst again. But I understood what came with the situation. Um, by the time I dropped him off, um, driving through downtown Dallas, um, the pay was really worth it. The pay and the experience. That could easily be anyone else in the back seat. You know, someone that had a mental illness and can't really control what's going on. Um, after I dropped him off, I continued working and I picked up all other different types. There was nothing like in the early morning when I would pick someone up from the airport and take them all the way to Fort Worth. And if anyone has done rideshare or anyone has traveled or anyone is a resident in the state of Texas in the DFW, one knows that going from DFW Airport going to downtown Fort Worth in the morning, specifically between the hours of 4 and 8:30 in the morning, you can meet traffic. Yeah, you can hop on the toll roads, but even then, especially at that time, the toll roads would be back up, and those were just two lanes, and there was accidents and things of that nature. But anywho, on that commute, the individual they slept for the most part, um, but it was kind of refreshing on that ride to just understanding that hey, it's a little bit of people on the road and not too many people, and I really wasn't focused on the payout. I just knew that it was going to be a payout worth my while because of the distance. Again, the distance is a big giveaway. When you go a certain distance, I'll use a time like I said, 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. It's a wonderful payout. And that's not even including tips. By the time I got the individual that was in my back seat to the hotel downtown Fort Worth, it was definitely really worth it. I got almost about $80, and that wasn't including the tip. So again, that was another experience I was grateful for. She thanked me for getting her to where she needed to be. And of course, she made small talk, and it was fine. I made small talk back um, until she wasn't, because she started talking to family after a while, which was fine. But yeah, those long distance rides, it's always a good payout, and it took me a time to like understand that I had to, pay attention to when I was doing my long distance rides. Because at first I was just picking up people. And then I started noticing the longer I go, the more money. Um, True situation. It was a Sunday morning, and I was waiting to where I need to be waiting to, pick up a client. So I'm at DFW Airport, and I get, the notification, and I look at the price, and the price said like $200. The thing is, though, I had to take them to, I believe it was, I took them to Austin, Texas. Yes, um, it was $200, and this was around 11 in the morning, and it was a long ride. Relatively speaking, 4 hours isn't really too long, but with traffic and things of that nature. But see, on this day it was a Sunday, so I was like, okay. And of course, I wanted to help him out. I mean, I also wanted to, make the money. I'm not going to lie to myself nor to you all. However, on the way, prior to him falling asleep, as I was driving him to where he needed to be, I asked him, I was like, hey, why didn't you hop on the plane just to go to Austin? He was saying that it was a booking mix up with his job and things of that nature. I told him, I was like, that makes sense, that happens. Life happens. Um, but by the time I drove back, I mean not drove back, but by the time I arrived there, I made 250 total because I made the 200 from the drive itself, and then he tipped me $50. And as I'm driving back, I was thinking I need to get back. Of course, I wanted to just get back, and I did take a break. And when I say take a break, I pulled over and got me something to eat. I believe I went to Popeyes because I was hungry. Looking back now, if I was smart, I would have set the app to where I could have been driving back to DFW and just picked someone up, and I could have made a pretty good coin because it probably would have been a good distance. Well, it definitely would have been coming from Austin. But overall, it was a wonderful experience. Again, Those individuals that thinking about doing ride share in any capacity, the distance, the longer the distance, it will get you paid. So if you ever look at the application, you see a high price, a high number, just know you're gonna be driving a good ways. Don't unless unless it's like a surge or something, or you have some event going on in the city. Um, like there were times where the Dallas Cowboys would be playing, or the Dallas Stars, or they would have certain concerts, or the Rangers would be playing. Like I said, concerts, musical concerts of all genres. And then, uh, it really don't matter. The distance could be short. You'll still make, a pretty penny. But when it wasn't that situation, stick with long distance, and you're guaranteed to make a lot of money. And those that ever took a ride share, it costs a lot because you had to pay it. So you was probably wondering, should I drive? Or if you couldn't drive, you just paid it because you need to get where you need to go. But yeah, that's all for this evening. Hope you all like the video. Like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you're someone who's having a difficult time, you feel as though you're the only one going through something, um, or you're thinking about getting in the ride share, or you need some self help or some motivation, go to Amazon and pick up my book. Yeah, it should help you, or it can help a friend or family. In fact, it can even help an enemy. But that is all, and you all have a good evening. Peace.